according to my kids. So yeah, welcome to this Ask Me Anything with Eva. So this time we get to flip the, what's it called? Flip the book over. What's the word?
Turn the tables?
Turn the tables, that's it.
Yeah.
And ask Eva questions. So we got lots of good questions for you. I guess first off, I know I've known you for a long time, but tell everybody else who you are.
Oh, okay.
I guess
yes.
that's why they're here. They probably know already, but maybe
not.
Short life history.
Maybe they are subscribers of yours.
Could be.
And they've never heard of me. So, hello everybody. It's good to see. Well, not to see you. Can you please discuss about the curves
That's
on
okay.
that?
I'll take care.
Okay, sorry. Okay. I shouldn't be distracted. Hello. So, my name is Eva, and I'm coming to you live from London. And I've just been thinking for a moment, what should I talk about me? But because I don't know what questions are still to come. But anyway, my journey has taken me from growing up in Germany for 19 years to New Zealand for 8.5, to Australia for 3 years, and then Germany for 3 years, and now London for about 1.5 years. And it's been a pretty wild ride, and I've really enjoyed pretty much everything about my life so far. I did not think I would end up in data or data visualization. And here I am, and have been leading Makeover Monday now for 4 years. It will be exactly 4 years by the end of this year. Looking forward to seeing what else it brings. And in the meantime, I've done a bunch of other things. And in my day job, I work for Exasol, a analytics database company based out of Germany, but also spread across the world.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eva. So a pretty common question that we're getting from people here is, well, I guess first off, why Tableau?
Good question. So I worked for Deloitte when I lived in New Zealand, and I started in 2011, and I have to start a bit kind of in the past. So I started there as an IT consultant, even though I wanted to be an HR consultant because that's what I studied. And after about 4 months, they sent me to India for 10 weeks on a training course for Hyperion planning. And that was a very interesting time. And suffice to say, I didn't end up using Hyperion planning in any of my projects. But what I did end up doing is that at the end of, or about mid-2012, I started using ClickView at the time to do some analysis on some data. And they sent me on a training course in Sydney so that I could actually, figure out what I'm doing there. And that was my first exposure to it. And then when I moved to Australia in 2013, I joined Commonwealth Bank, and my first task was to evaluate BI tools that we would use in our finance team. And I thought, well, it's going to be Click, right? It's the only one I know. But I was given by IT the choice between Oracle Business Intelligence and Tableau. And the choice was pretty clear because one I could just get, the other one was very difficult. So I downloaded Tableau. I struggled to actually put together my first chart because the canvas was grey, and I'm like, Click was white, and I always felt that on a white page I can do something. When it's grayed out, I can't. But once I got over that hurdle, I really quickly enjoyed using Tableau, and that was the start of something really good.
Okay, very good. So then, when was your first kind of foray into the community itself? The Tableau community.
Yeah, so that would have been the Tableau user group in Sydney, where I met Fiona Gordon. She's a troublemaker, but a fantastic one. And David Murphy. And David Murphy, some of you might know as Datasaurus Rex on the Twitter. And he's a fantastic guy. He's really, really tall. And I met him there, and he
really tall.
Like really tall. And he did a talk about, I think it was something about maps. And it was really interesting. We started chatting afterwards because, these things always involve some sort of social gathering. And then at the end of the event, we were just like, oh yeah, we kind of seem to live in the same suburbs. So we started walking home. And turns out we were neighbors. And yeah, so David was my first Tableau friend. And from there, I started meeting more people at these user group events. And I was fortunate to go to the Tableau conference in Melbourne, which was the Asia Pacific event. Just a 2-day thing, and then the Tableau conference in Vegas in 2015, which really kicked off meeting all the cool people, finally.
And what's your favorite thing about the Tableau conference then?
The conference, meeting the people, yeah. I think it's it feels a bit like, I've never been to a high school reunion, but I'm guessing that's what a high school reunion would be like. You meet,
Sort of.
well, sort of,
Yeah.
but maybe more fun than a high school reunion because you're
I
not.
think it can be fun too.
Well,
Get really drunk.
I hear that you compare
Yeah.
yourself against other people, and like.
Yeah, people do that at the Tableau conference as well, right?
Well, but that's more professional, so it feels a bit more honest, and not so superficial. I think, at least when you look at the kind of competitive part of Dataverse, but really, I enjoy meeting people in the hallways, outside of rooms, I guess, where people go to talks, and just bumping into them. And I do have to admit, sometimes I struggle to remember people's names, so I'm the one who tries to slyly look down at their name tag and figure out, oh, who was that again? Because you meet them in person once a year. But it's always a very high energy event. And I do have to say, I'm impressed by how Tableau can turn it into something that's really fun for a few days when it's actually about really heavy business stuff. So yeah, that's what I like.
And what would you change about the if you could change one thing about the Tableau conference, what would it be?
I would switch off one thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Only one.
Oh, it's difficult. Well, I would make it warmer, because I struggle with the temperature inside the conference
In the
venues.
rooms?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's freezing
It's
cold.
like Antarctica.
But normally outside it's quite warm, and because I was tossing up between turning down the music so actually you can hear people that you're talking to, or making it warmer. But just I've been in the expo hall for so many days.
Did you just try to sneak in a second one?
No, I'm just saying these are the ones
Yeah.
I was tossing up between. But I would
Yeah.
go for the temperature, because you're inside and you can see a breeze, it blows and it's cold. Yeah.
Okay, so another new initiative you've just started. You've been really big into the women in tech since I've known you. So tell us a bit about the Maple Square and why. Maple Square.
Yes. So Maple Square came about kind of accidentally, because I was tagged in a LinkedIn post by a company that said, we've noticed that on our podcast we interview a bunch of white dudes, but where are the women? We want to have more women on our podcast. And I thought, I applaud the desire to bring more diversity to their guest lineup, but I also think it shouldn't be so hard to find the women. So I thought, here's a problem that I want to solve, because I know the women are out there. We just need to find a place where they're visible. And I think LinkedIn can work for that, because you can find women for all sorts of topics and industries and all of that. But how do you know they're willing to speak about it? Whether it's on a podcast, on a stage, at a user group. And that's why I decided I'm going to build a website where you can find women who are willing to speak about data or tech topics at any level of experience when it comes to speaking, but also at any level of experience in their career. So I want that to be a place where you can find a speaker for a user group, but also as a keynote speaker for your biggest event. And that's why I decided to build it.
Okay, and then, so if somebody wants a speaker, they need to scroll through all the people in the list, and then what do they do from there? Just reach out to that person directly, go through you? What's the best way?
Yeah, so the idea is, and that's why I still need to do a bit of development on the page, is that there will be a search bar, because every speaker's profile is tagged with keywords. So, for example, if you look at Michelle Freeman's speaker profile, you will see that data visualization and Tableau are keywords. So if you click on that, you will see everyone with those keywords, but currently there's not yet a search functionality. So I will build that so that it makes it a lot easier for people to find speakers for the topics they're looking for. And at the moment, you can contact speakers directly, but in the future, that will go through me.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, so a pretty common question people have been asking is, I guess it's kind of two parts. How do you keep yourself so organized?
I really like lists, and you can probably attest to that. I'm a huge fan of writing lists for things that are maybe quite trivial but easy to forget. So I use a bunch of different tools that help me stay organized, but I also want life to be fun and not just compartmentalized in all these different to-do things. So for example, I use Trello now. I have been using that for about a month to organize what I need to do outside of work. So with my projects like Makeover Monday, book writing, Maple Square, other things. At the moment, I'm doing a course in the evenings that's about personal finance. So for that, I need to do some stuff as well to get all my stuff in order. So I'm using Trello with different columns to move tasks along. I also use Microsoft To Do, mostly for shopping lists for the supermarket. I know it sounds trivial, but I don't want to write a shopping list on paper. I just keep a list in my phone. Andy and I share it so that whoever goes to the supermarket knows what to get, but then we also tend to order that. I also like simplifying things, so I have simplified my wardrobe quite significantly over the years so that anything goes with anything else. I don't have pieces that, oh, this could just be worn with these shoes, for example. So I want things to be very combinable. I guess you call it a capsule wardrobe. and I also then, if I buy something new, I try to buy it in a way that it fits with what I already have. What else? So we have recently gotten a robot vacuum cleaner, and that was a fantastic investment because while I don't mind vacuuming, it is something that can be easily automated, and it just takes one more task off the list. For me, it's not so much whether I like it or not, but how much time it consumes. I don't want to spend the time. Plus, if it's not actually that much time per week if I did it myself, but this way I don't have to spend any time on it. Plus, we switch it on every night. So it is much cleaner just because it happens every night rather than every 2 or 3 days. I also, for my training, I keep a training plan. So currently I'm a bit injured. I can't run, but I can cycle, and we have an indoor setup for our bikes. So I use a training plan that comes with Swift, the platform that I use that I already pay for. And that means I don't have to think about what to do when I'm riding my bike. Because if I just pedal, yeah, sure, I get a bit of a workout, but it's not really going to be effective. So I just follow the training plan. I do what they say. If I miss a workout, or if I can't, do it to the standard they suggest, then so be it. But at least I try. But most of the time I get all the stars. I'm just trying to think what else I use. I guess it's not so much just about the tools I use, but also what I don't do. I don't know if you can see it in the background, but there isn't a TV in this house. So the time, Well, there is a TV. It's just the computer monitor. Yeah, exactly. So it's, Andy's monitor on his desk. So if we want to watch TV and we want to do that from the couch, we have to move that. I'm not a fan of normal TV where you have ad interruptions all the time and you kind of do this mindless zapping through the channels. But what I do is I probably watch about 8 to 10 hours of Netflix a week simply because I watch it all the time when I'm on my bike. So for me, it's like I watch Netflix when I'm on my bike, but we might also watch a movie and be quite deliberate about it. But I'm not going to sit down on the couch every night to do that because I just prefer other things. I'd rather read a book or work on one of my projects or spend the time cooking and getting away from a screen. And I guess what helped me a lot was when I lived in Sydney, I decided, okay, I want to be more active because I actually only really consider myself an athlete since I've been about 29 years old. I wasn't particularly fit before then. And I decided I'm just going to ride my bike every single day. So even if I do it 5 days a week, that's still pretty good compared to 0. And I just did that without any expectations of a certain level of fitness. And I did that for an entire year before I actually got into triathlons. And by that stage, it became a very normal part of my day. So for me, when I do exercise, it never feels like, I have to get up to exercise. It's like I get up and I exercise. Like it's just the thing I do, like brushing my teeth. And I think that really helps because that means I always make it a priority and I put it in my calendar. And I think that's enough about how I get stuff done. Yeah, we'll keep the answers a bit more brief so that we can get through more questions. When we were writing our Makeover Monday book together, I had to pare down her sentences because one sentence would be about 200 words long. Yeah. She likes the word and. And commas. Yeah, and commas, and yeah. Okay, so on to books. Yes. So we've talked about Makeover Monday, but before we get to that, what's your favorite book this year? Oh my God. Again, just one? Just one. Okay, it's actually... It said the question is from... it's from me, actually. That's not it. This is from Christoph. Yeah. Probably a boring question, but what is your favorite book this year? Okay, I brought a whole stash. And no, we're only allowed to do one, because otherwise you'll talk too long. I'm just looking at it. This is one that made me laugh so much. And it's called More Than a Woman. It's written by a lady called Caitlin Moran. And the description is very short. Join me for 24 hours in the life of the average woman. And it is hilarious. It had me in stitches. And it's so honest and authentic, really relatable. I've just given it to my friend Helen from Op Fistula, who you might remember from the Viz 5 challenges. And it was just a really good read. There are plenty of other books that I would highly recommend, but that's the one that I think I enjoyed the most this year.
Okay. I guess seeing a few more questions come in about kind of managing your time and things. Some advice for people on how to switch off from work.
Oh, yeah. So at work, what I do, rather than keeping a to-do list, I put everything in my calendar. So if someone asks, could you write this article? I will block time in my calendar, and during that time I will write the article. And typically in the appointment, I just put in a couple of notes so that I'm not starting from a blank page.
I think the question's more around when do you make the at the end of the day?
Sorry, I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to make that clear. So basically everything I need to do is in my calendar, and that helps me actually accomplish the things I had on my list. Because for me, the most difficult way of switching off, or the biggest struggle is if I feel like I haven't finished. Because then you're constantly still thinking. So I think being very realistic about what you can do in a day, making time for that, and then saying, I'm done. Maybe it's after 7.5 hours instead of 8, heaven forbid, but that's okay because you've accomplished your goal for the day, and you can then happily switch off because you've accomplished what you had to do. So yeah, it's about setting those expectations, and then maybe if you have the opportunity, depending on COVID restrictions, going out for a walk to get away from the screen, switch off your phone or don't even take it with you, and just go for a walk, get some fresh air, or do something completely different. For me, it's cooking. I really like cooking because I can just kind of wind down while I'm doing something creative and non-screen related.
Okay. So speaking of screens, what is your top couple favorite series, movies, whatever that you've watched recently?
Oh.
I've got one in mind in particular.
Yes. Turn.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. We watched Turn earlier this year, and that's about the...
That was last year.
No.
That was this year.
Yeah. It's been a long year. So Turn I found really interesting because it's a much more engaging way to learn about American history than
it was really
I did in high school. Yeah. So I really like that.
That was on Amazon Prime?
I think Netflix.
No, not Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Yeah. Either one.
Okay. Yeah. Turn. And so what was the question? It was just about shows or series?
Yeah.
Well, we did watch True Detective quite recently. That was really good as well. And I think what I liked about it in terms of crime is it wasn't so graphic, because it was a lot about the actual detectives and their thought process and stuff. I thought that was
season 1.
Season 1, yes.
Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. Yeah. It's
good.
On for those of you that have Hulu or HBO Go. It's on there. It's highly recommended. It's great. I made Eva watch it.
Yeah, I don't regret it.
Yeah.
It was good. Did I hit the one that you thought of?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And so your book, new book.
My new
Tell
book.
us about it. What can people? Why'd you write it? Who should read it? How does it apply to the Tableau community, or whatever?
Yeah. So why did I write it? Some of you may have been at TC18, where Adam Grant did the inspirational keynote. And I had started following him maybe just a few months earlier. So when I saw he was in the lineup, I was really, really excited. And he talked about givers and takers, and very heartwarmingly, suddenly our pictures appeared on the big screen because the community had been asked, who's the most giving people in the community. And they actually chose us, which was really amazing. And I sat in the front row and I had tears running down my face. But also, I had the fortune to actually meet him at a luncheon that was put on for the Zen Masters, and Adam said we could get in touch with him and he would help us, and he told us exactly how to write an email to him that's most effective. So being a good German, I followed all the rules and wrote him an email, and he responded. And subsequently, so this was then in early 2019, he invited us to come to Philadelphia and speak at the Wharton People Analytics Conference. And because this would have been a non-work trip, we decided just one of us would go because of the cost. So I ended up going. speaking about the Makeover Monday project, because this is all about kind of empowering people and building communities. And when I stood on that stage in front of a very high caliber audience, first I was exhilarated, I was also quite nervous, and I thought I should write a book about this topic because I really love talking about the community and what it can do for people. And so I sat down, I jotted down some notes, and then I kind of just let it sit for a little while because during that year, I moved to London, so there was a lot of change. And then a year ago, I submitted the proposal to Wiley, and then they agreed that they would publish it and started writing it. And this is the book in all its glory. I don't know if that's visible. Yeah. So, Empowered by Data, How to Build Inspired Analytics Communities. And it's actually, so it's different from the Makeover Monday book. This is not about data visualization specifically. This is not a full of picture books. This is a manual for building your own community. So I've got a lot of people that I interviewed. I've got their case studies in it. And the people who should read it, I think, are people who are already building communities and they maybe want a bit of help in how could I set up this kind of event, or how could I get this started? What are some potential hurdles? How can I get buy-in from above? But also leaders who want to help community champions do this so that they can see a bit more what will be the day-to-day things and what do they maybe face in terms of challenges. So I think what I wrote was something that's meant to be very practical, so you can take it and be like, okay, on Monday we're going to start with the first activity. And I hope that many of you will find value in it.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about data visualization then.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess first off, of all of the vizzes of your own that you've ever created, which one's your favorite?
The one about MLB, Major League Baseball.
Let me see if I can just go ahead and talk about it.
Yes, so there is a viz that I built, and I'm typically someone who builds quite simple visualizations. I try to stick to best practices, and what I want to do is make something very, very clear and easy to understand, because I think it's quite easy to do something that's complicated, but also I'm not the type of person who just builds all these very artistic charts. So with this topic, I know literally nothing about baseball because all my exposure to it has been through like movies from Hollywood that I watched in German growing up. And so in this viz, the approach I took was actually let's learn a bit more about baseball. And so I did a bit of research and I built this kind of long format viz just to make an effort to actually learn something about a topic that a lot of people know lots about, but I didn't really know anything about. That's my favorite, and I think you have found it. Yes.
This one?
Yes, that's the one.
Let me see if I can bring it up for people. Okay, so now I need to try to share the screen without messing everything up. So let me see, display capture. Okay, so that should be on now. Let me get that. Oh, I can just turn this off. Let's turn that off. Okay, so so this one here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just the top image, but if you go further down, you see the full. So that was the original, and then I built something a bit longer and more detailed, I suppose.
Okay. So have you been to a professional game yet?
No.
Game?
No.
Okay.
I have not been inside a stadium in the US for anything.
For anything?
For anything.
That's pretty sad.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me turn that back off.
Oh,
All
that
right.
was easy.
So, and then relating to that, let's see. If you're going to viz something for fun, what would it be? This is from, this is from Michelle Freeman.
It would probably be exercise data because it's meaningful to me, and I've got a bunch of things already in the apps that I use, so that's Strava and Garmin, so that I would probably look at what do those apps give me and what's missing, and maybe try and create that from the data that we could access.
So why haven't you done it?
Because I don't have the time, or I don't want to spend the time. I'd rather spend the time on something else.
Okay, very good. Who is somebody in the data visualization community whose work always impresses you?
Oh, Priya.
Priya
Priya
from the
Padan.
data school.
Yeah, she's so good so early on. She became a Tableau public ambassador and a featured author before she even started the data school. Like, that's pretty great.
We could link to her. I'm trying to bring her profile up here real quick, but whenever I'm running this software, it goes really slow for the live stream. But we'll include a link to her in the show notes when we're done. Okay, let me see. Let me go back to the questions here. Okay, so we're just talking kind of like this is from Brittany Rosenow. So she finds that it's easy to start projects that are exciting, but it's harder to see them through. As someone who with many successful finished products out in the world, do you have a tip for following through on projects? For following through on projects when they don't feel as exciting as you kind of continue working on them, especially when balancing multiple projects.
Yeah, good question, Brittany. And I met Brittany in Seattle in January at the Tableau user group, which was really cool. So my tip would be, you might notice that in Makeover Monday, I kind of paced myself over the course of a year. If I had continued at the same level that I did in year 1, I would not have lasted to year 4. I always came up with new ideas, and Andy thankfully, kind of slowed me down a bit, because if you take on too much, you're not gonna last. It has to be very small increments to have the stamina to see it through, and also to not make it just completely unrealistic in terms of the commitment of your time. For me, I've certainly got ups and downs. I have days where I'm like, oh my God, why am I still doing this? But then every now and then I get a really nice feedback email or a message on Twitter where I'm like, oh, it's so worth it. Or you see someone achieving something based on the support that we provide. So those things keep me going. And for me, it's about writing down all the good things, being grateful for stuff, writing down why I enjoy doing something. And sometimes that just really helps pick me up.
But relating back to the question, though, so you're kind of dancing around the question.
Okay.
What do you do when you kind of, how do you see a project through?
Some of it is
so Brittany, it sounds, if I'm going to speak on behalf of Brittany,
okay.
maybe she's on here and can correct me, but it sounds like she starts projects but has trouble finishing them.
Okay.
So what can she do to kind of help address that?
I like this approach called Eat the Frog. So at work, I generally love my job, but there will always be some tasks that are just harder to do, because maybe I was really excited to write a blog post and then I'm like, oh, this is not as exciting as I thought. So I schedule it first thing in the morning, and I'm just going to do it no matter how I feel about it. Because I find once you start, let's say this is, the one task to finishing your project, once I start it, I need to just, get into the zone, and then it's much easier to finish. But what if you don't finish it
then in that time period that you blocked out? Do you just not finish it?
I just find another time, maybe later in the day or the next day. But I think for me the most important is finding time in the schedule that's dedicated for that task. Okay. And, I guess in a work context, there will be things you have to do, even if you don't like them. If it's your own free time, for me, I struggle with just putting a book away. If I don't enjoy a book, I'm like, oh, it's a book, I should finish it. But really, why? If you don't like it, if it doesn't bring you joy, or if it doesn't really work for you, give you any value, you're welcome to not finish it. I mean, how often do we eat a meal? We're like, oh, this isn't great, and we leave something on the plate. So I think that's different, and that's where you have to just use your judgment of, is it worth going down that road? Because of, you've already committed, but you won't get the time back even if you continue doing it. So I think if you have to do it, by all means see it through, but if you don't have to, you don't have to stick it out if you really hate it.
Okay. One more question related to visualization.
Yeah.
So this comes from Ashik, and they say, I wouldn't have improved my skills this far without your valuable feedbacks. Thanks a lot.
Thank
which
you.
is very, very nice. But who does the Queen of Feedbacks look upon when she needs feedback of her own?
I look to many people. So Charlie, Andy and I have a group chat on WhatsApp to coordinate Makeover Monday things. And sometimes I post in that group chat and I say, this is my viz. Do you have any feedback? sometimes I ask I just ask Andy, because obviously it's very easy to just, come to his desk and say, hey, what do you think of this? But also other chats, like I might ask Michelle Freeman, for example, who I'm in contact with quite regularly. Or it really depends. But most of my visits are around Makeover Monday, so I don't necessarily ask someone at work because it's not really necessarily their topic. But yeah, just anyone. I mean, it doesn't always have to be someone above you in terms of experience or expertise. It could be a peer who says, oh, that doesn't make sense, or I don't understand that sentence. So yeah, anyone who will listen.
Okay, great. Let's see. Right, and apart from being a Tableau certified professional, what are the other tools and skills and this comes from Preet Kamal, what are the other tools and skills that they can acquire to become more marketable in the future? And is being a Tableau certified professional even really necessary for making yourself marketable? I'll kind of add that on top of it.
Yeah, and maybe that question first. I'm not a Tableau certified professional. I was a qualified professional in 2015. It has since lapsed because these things expire, as the versions progress. It hasn't stopped me from making a career in data visualization. So I think certifications are great, especially if you want to be a consultant, because then people can kind of gauge, okay, this is a certain level of skill with the tool or familiarity. What I would recommend is if you can, to look a little bit beyond visualization as such and see what is going to be upstream and downstream in the process. So where does the data come from? A little bit of data engineering maybe, just so that you're not so dependent on other people in the process. Can you do a bit of data wrangling yourself, whether it's in Tableau Prep or in Alteryx or in SQL? Organizations use a bunch of different tools, so if you have at least some knowledge, and the approach here I like to take is know enough to be dangerous so that you can challenge the people, and then also at the other end, so having more business knowledge, because it's great if you can build a beautiful dashboard that is very easy to use, but if you don't understand why people use it or how they use it, there's limits to how far you will go. So if you work, for example, in the finance industry, maybe it's about, what does a typical day look like for a finance manager or for someone who works with banking customers directly? What is the information they need to know and what are they doing with it?
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess one more question. So this is something that I suffered with about a year and a half ago when I stopped doing Viz Review. I kind of just got tired of it. I didn't enjoy it. And kind of you and I both have this motto that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a hell yes for me anymore. So how do you not get bored at endlessly reviewing visualizations every week?
It's so funny you ask me that, because I wonder, how do you do it that for the last 5 years you've taught the same courses or the same classes to every data school cohort, right? So for me, I mean, you might have gathered it, I like talking and I also like helping people. So I feel that with this review I can make a difference, and that's also where I focus my energy for each week. The value in what I do is not, oh, what is he writing now? The value that I bring to Makeover Monday is not my visualization. The value I bring is putting this project up, making sure there's data and giving people feedback so they can learn. And I get a real kick out of seeing people improve. Like, that just gives me a lot of satisfaction. And when I watch you teach other people, you still seem to get a kick out of teaching the very fundamentals of Tableau. Yeah. And I think that's very similar. And other people, for them it might be every spring they get their garden in order and they, have all their little seedlings and stuff. And I just really enjoy that aspect of it, which is also what what keeps me coming back, because I do have times when I'm like, this is so much work, but I just really enjoy those parts.
Okay, great. One more question about books that has just come through. Marie Kondo.
Yes.
And the life-changing magic of tidying up. Talk about that. A lot of people may not have heard of that book before.
Yeah. I read that when it first came out, and I think it must have been 2012. I don't have it here. I think I had it on my Kindle. And it must have been 2012 because I was still living in New Zealand. I vividly remember rearranging my closet. And it has opened my eyes a lot, to different things. Because I don't know how much money I've spent on like clothes and shoes when I didn't even have a fraction of what I earn now. Like, it's really a declutter. And moving from one country to the next also helps, because I mean, moving to London, that was the only time I actually moved with furniture and a lot of things. The other times was always just with a suitcase. And that really helps to keep things under control. So I highly recommend the book. There's also a Netflix series about, I think it's called Tidying Up or something. And it deals with, people's kind of hoarding problems or just maybe the clutter they have. I would recommend the book over the Netflix series because, the TV show it's just a different thing, and it's meant to be a bit sensationalist. But I think the book is truly authentically Marie Kondo. So if you can get your hands on that, I would.
Okay, we'll try to remember to link to that book as well. I know when you told me about it, first thing I did was just go through all the crap I had, and I couldn't believe how much stuff I got rid of that I just don't use anymore. So and then every once in a while go through that again.
Except the flex wall.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Hang on a second, just writing a comment. Okay. Right. So let's move on from that into some other topics.
Sure.
Okay. John says, thank you for all the stuff you do to help people. So
You're
very
welcome,
good.
John.
That's one of the things that you really enjoy. If you could only ever, this is from Charlie.
Yeah.
If you could only ever bake one recipe again, which would it be? And this is baking.
Baking. I guess baking is anything you put in the oven, right? No, so if
It has to be the big setting.
baked goods, probably bread.
Okay.
Because it's actually something like a fundamental piece of
Multifunctional.
nutrition. Yeah, because, if it was something sweet, it wouldn't be so versatile.
Okay. All right. That wasn't as exciting of an answer as I thought it might
Biscoff ghetto, like Biscoff cake.
That's pretty good, yeah. Okay. Do you think somebody can go from couch to marathon in a year?
Half a year, it says.
Oh, half a year.
Yeah. Yes, I think you can do it, but no, I don't think it's a good idea. I would recommend, because of my own history with injuries and making a lot of changes, that you start very slowly and you read about things like running form. For about 10 years, I ran on my front foot, which caused me a lot of issues and shin splints and a lot of pain. And then I changed it and it's improved a lot. I currently have some, hip injury, but that's another thing. But I would say do it slowly because you will have so much more fun if you can consistently do it. You don't want your first marathon to just be like you cross the finish line and you collapse and you're in pain for 2 weeks. So I think it's possible, but I wouldn't advise doing it.
Yeah, half a year is not very much time for a full marathon. Half marathon for sure.
Especially as a novice with no training.
There's probably training plans out there for that kind of thing. Once you're kind of want to take it seriously, I would recommend a book called The Hanson's Marathon Method.
Yeah.
It totally changed the way that I thought about running and changed the, lots of things for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you talked about this one already. At what age did you leave Germany, and how was it for you to live in a different society? Did you have culture shock while moving around? And did you have have you ever felt that a country did not suit you just because of the culture or for other reasons? And what was that? That's a long question.
It's a few questions in one. So I left Germany when I was 19. I had finished high school. And I moved to New Zealand initially to stay for 3 months and just do some work and travel and then come home and study. While I was there, I met my ex-husband, so I stayed for 8.5 years and then we moved to Australia. And what I found interesting, because as a European, I had traveled during holidays, vacations, quite a lot. So I had been to different countries before I moved away from Germany. But I thought, well, New Zealand is a Western-ish country, right? The people are probably going to be very similar. But when I lived there, I discovered how different everything is. And there were so many things I loved about New Zealand. There were very little things that I didn't like about it. They were probably, so I really loved the mentality. The things I didn't like, stuff like the bread, the terrible insulation or lack thereof in the houses, those are all things you can actually fix, right? Because it's just about putting money onto something. But I love the mentality. I love how friendly people in New Zealand are and how welcoming. And it gave me a real appreciation for how things could be very different, and how different they are from Germany, and how much more, relaxed. And I know when my parents visited me, they took a lot away from their first visit, because they were literally welcomed with open arms. In Germany, no one would hug a stranger, not because we're unfriendly, but we just need to warm up. And in New Zealand, they were just welcomed by the family of my ex-husband and stuff, and it was just really warm, and they took a lot away, and they would start helping strangers on the street that they saw struggling with, reading a map or something. So I learned a lot during the moves, and I don't know if it was a cultural shock, but it was definitely a cultural adjustment. And I noticed myself talk quite a bit about, well, this is how we do it in Germany. But I think it's just natural. You just compare, and it's not necessarily, oh, it's so much better in Germany. It's just, it's different. And I'm trying to, like, here in the UK, there are so many things that are different, and some stuff where I'm like, why would you do it like this in 2020? Like, 2 different taps to turn on the water, hot and cold.
It's the stupidest thing ever.
It's like, that wasn't even in Germany when I was growing up, and I'm 35. Like, when are they going to catch up? But things are different, and some people just like the look of them or something. I hope I answered that question. There was something about, in the end, have you ever felt where a country that didn't suit me? No, I think I was quite lucky that the countries I moved to, I enjoyed living there. The only reason why I moved back to Europe was because I wanted to be closer to my family, and Australia and New Zealand is really far away. It's 24 hours of just flying, plus all the layover time. So, yeah, they're just too far away for living there permanently.
Okay, and thank you for the compliments on the tree decoration. I did a lot of hard work on that.
Yes, and you did a great job. It looks really, really nice.
Right. If you could only choose one place to vacation for the rest of your life, where would it be? You can't choose your family. Mm-hmm. And why?
Oh, that's quite easy. The south of France. There is a small town where my uncle happens to have a holiday house, and I have spent many summers there, and I just love it. I love the people. It's a village with lots of old people, but they're really friendly. I think they treat you differently because they know you're kind of like a local, and I love France. I love going to the markets. I love putting on, a polka dot skirt, having my little basket, some little flat red ballerina shoes, and trying to fit in and completely standing out. But I just like everything about it. And there's a river nearby where you can go swimming and kayaking, and there's amazing roads for cycling. It's not close to the Mediterranean, but it doesn't matter. But I really like that place, and most of the year the weather is really good.
So you say there's lots of old people there.
Yeah.
What's old?
Oh, like white hair.
What if people have white hair when they're 40?
Well, I'm thinking people above 70.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I don't fall into that category.
No, you don't.
Okay. What places are on your bucket list that you haven't visited yet?
Well, Vietnam, because I've only spent 6 hours there between flights, so I would like to explore that, ideally on bike. I haven't been to Spain, so...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I guess it would have been another 12 hours after going to France, so it's like,
right.
And France was free. So, I would like to go to Malta, and, Norway. Oh, there's a few places. And then Eastern Europe, I haven't really been. I've been to Prague, but that's as far east as I've gotten. Well, and Hungary, but there's a lot of countries
Germany.
there.
You've been to East Germany.
I've been to East Germany. That's not East Europe. No, I mean beyond that. So yeah, so I wouldn't mind exploring Eastern Europe. There's like Slovakia, Slovenia. I've seen a lot of cool pictures.
What about Scotland?
Well, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's not just a visit. That's a move. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you for that question, Denise. Right. So we are getting a puppy soon.
Yes.
Would you like to? Should I show the picture?
Yes. Show the picture. People have to
bear
see.
with me for one
This
second.
the latest picture. Oh my god, the puppy. Oh, somebody asked. Maybe I'll talk while Andy's bringing this up. How did I feel about India? So, India was probably quite transformational for me. I spent 10 weeks in a hotel. Like I lived in a hotel, so it's probably not a fair assessment because I had quite a comfortable life there. But I spent every day with just Indians. There was no other expats there or foreigners, and I think I saw a lot of real India when I was traveling a bit as well. I really liked it, but I didn't find it easy because it's very different to what I grew up with. And I think also being 25 at the time, I probably had the wrong expectations or unrealistic expectations of how it should be. And I should have just been more accepting of, well, the internet is going to drop out, the floors in this building that is being built as we're training in it might just be dirty, and I was probably a bit too arrogant at the time, is my critical assessment of myself. But I learned a lot.
At the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I learned a lot. I met a lot of great people. I had amazing food, and lived in a cool hotel where I made lots of friends. So yeah. And this is the puppy. She is like the cutest thing. Hopefully everyone can see that. Yeah. What's the next question?
They said, what names are you considering?
Oh, what names? Do we tell? I guess we could.
Doesn't matter.
So the working title at the moment.
Working title?
That's what I call it, the working title. The to be confirmed. I guess the one we're using the most is Philly. And I also like Millie and Scarlett and Maggie. Yeah, they're the top of my list.
Chloe, I think you had on there?
Well, no, I had Cleo.
Cleo.
But then you said it shouldn't sound like no.
Right.
So I've scratched Cleo off the list.
Eva's going to be a first-time dog puppy parent.
Yes.
So
yes.
she's not quite sure what she's in for.
I've had a kitten before, and I've been a good kitten parent. She was absolutely obsessed with me, and I take that as a good sign.
Okay. Right. And how about, have you considered getting a kitten to grow up with the puppy?
We have not.
And we will not.
Yeah. So I love cats. I really do. And I'd love a kitten. But the problem is, so a puppy I think is more work than a kitten because, cats are a bit more independent. But the puppy we can take with us. And while we're not going to travel extensively, I think when we travel it will be in a car, and we will, we'll go hiking and stuff, and the puppy can come along. The puppy can come with us to Europe to, visit my family or to visit Oscar at school or something, but a kitten you can't take with you.
Yeah.
Plus, my last kitten was hit by a car, so I'm just a bit traumatized living in a kind of city environment where, she died being hit by a car, and I'm like, oh, maybe they're just not so road smart. And
plus, I don't like cats.
Well, and Annie doesn't like cats, and I think if it's a really heavy no, then and I love dogs as well. I mean, I'd love a pony,
it's not a hell yes,
but
so
a pony
no.
would not be affordable here.
Yeah. Okay.
One day.
Great. Okay. Let me see if there's anything more. Okay, let's go back to the community for a bit. So Armand wrote in, I've been lurking in the DataFam community for over a year now.
Yeah.
I know your favorite hashtag.
That's okay.
I just can't seem to get started on my Tableau journey. Do you have any tips for me? And I know Charlie wrote something in the chat as well, which you can see here. That might be, but anyway, give your take on that.
Yeah, I think it's about just getting started. I know people feel very reluctant, especially when they see the really good visualizations that come out of the community. But it's not about comparing yourself, because the only reason you need to do this is for yourself. You're not building a viz to please me because I'm not your employer, for example, right? Like, do it for yourself, whether it's going to benefit you in your career, or you just enjoy working with data, or you want to be, let's say, more creative, like data art kind of stuff, or graphic design. I think that's why you should do it. You shouldn't do it for anyone else, for prestige, for getting a title or a certification. And the trick is just to get started. And I invite you to go to Tableau Public and find, maybe look up the Zen Masters and the ambassadors and go through their profiles and look where they started and what their first visits looked like. Mine are hideous, but that's how I started. And then I just did more and more and more. So I did about, I think, 50% of the Makeover Mondays in 2016. Then I joined Andy in hosting the project, and suddenly I had this extra perspective of giving people feedback, and that really helped me to learn and helped me to see, oh, that doesn't really work so well. I'm not going to try that, but I might try this. and also the weekly practice. And I encourage everyone to do that. And I think also maybe figuring out a way that makes it fun for you. So if you can't relate to a data set in any particular week, maybe create a data set about something that interests you, or look one up, or maybe it's self-quantified data. Maybe you track, I don't know, your steps, and you visualize your steps. I mean, it could be really simple vizzes. Maybe it's about perfecting the bar chart, or it's about building infographics, finding an angle, looking at what people have done. And if you see something, we're like, oh, that looks cool, maybe try that.
Yeah, and you're getting some good advice on the chat as well from people like Charlie and Denise and Michelle. You need to just jump in, basically. You know, everybody is a beginner at some point. It's a bit harder now because the community is so big, but just get engaged. You know, that's the easiest way to do it. Don't expect anybody to do anything for you.
Yeah.
It's up to you to put the work in. You're not going to get better unless you put the work in. So it's very important. Maybe
you can imagine it a bit like you're going to a networking event, maybe it's a conference or a user group or something, and there's going to be all these, kind of groups standing there in the pre-COVID days, and people talk, and you want to be part of the conversation. You have to take that first step, because we're all virtual. We don't see you until you've made yourself visible. Take that first step and introduce yourself and say, hey, can I just join the conversation? And you can stand there and listen. And our equivalent is look at Viz Review and just watch and listen to the feedback and take that on board and learn from that. Or you can make your own contribution by creating a Viz.
Okay. Let's see, just marking off some questions here. Okay, if you didn't have a career in data and technology, what career would you have had? How about something that people probably don't know about you? You love cooking.
I do.
So how about, is there maybe something that you want to share?
In my past? Well, yeah, I think there's 3 ways it could have gone. I did consider going into cooking/baking. I wanted to open a cafe, and I did actually go into a show called MasterChef New Zealand. You can look it up. You probably won't find me because I think they got rid of all the old stuff. This was literally 10 years ago or 9 years ago. Oh, Andy, please don't. So I got in that show and I actually made it to the top 24, but it being such a I guess standard cooking show at the time, and me being vegan, it was a bit difficult. But that also showed me maybe this is not the right thing for me to do straight out of uni, because I think it's better to do the corporate thing first and then come back to the other stuff, because then you have something to fall back on. So I think we'll scrap the idea of doing the screen share.
Oh, okay. There is. You need to know Eva's
my maiden name, but I think we don't go down that road.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the other option was that there is a school in Germany. It's a private university, and I wanted to study hospitality management, which I think outside of Germany everyone would be like, why would you study that? For example, in New Zealand you just become a restaurant manager, but in Germany that's an actual career, and it's about managing a hotel, not being a duty manager on call, responsible for the night shift. So that was the other option. And actually one thing I said no to that I felt I should be doing was med school. And I got a place, but I rejected it and went back to New Zealand. Yeah.
Okay. 2 more questions and then we'll call it a day or an evening.
Okay.
First one is, how did you become vegan? Well, not how did you become, why did you become vegan? Like what was the, you were a carnivore before that?
Yes.
So how'd you get there? What was the journey?
I was 22 at the time, and I went to a bookshop. I remember it was Whitcoulls, it's called in New Zealand, or it used to be called at the time. And I found a book called Skinny Bitch, and I thought, oh great, here's another diet I can try. And I sat down at home on the couch and I read it, and it was very eye-opening. And I just, it's quite a small book, and I finished it that night.
And what was it about?
Well, I thought it was about a diet, but really it was these two women from the US opening my eyes. So they talked about what actually happens with the food you eat, or to the animals that become the food you eat. And it was very graphic and very real, and I thought, I can't be part of this anymore. So I switched overnight. I stopped eating any and all meat all eggs, and I only had a tub of yogurt left that I used up. So I'm like, I don't want to throw it away. I'll use it up, and then I never touched any of that stuff again. And it's been the best decision of my life. And that was almost 13 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then what are your favorite things to cook?
Huh.
You get, let's see, we'll give you a top 4.
Top 4. Okay.
Number 1. No, let's go backwards. You have to end with your favorite.
Is it about cooking them, or is it about things I like and that's why I cook them?
What are your favorite things to cook? Wait, I think that's what the question is from Michelle. Yeah, what are your favorite things to cook?
I really like making curry ramen noodles because they have lots of vegetables
Is that
in
number
them.
4?
That's number 4.
Okay.
God, this is a difficult question. I love making sourdough bread. That's number 3, I guess.
Number 3? You can do 3 like
Number
that.
3. Yeah. That's the German 3, not like. Chocolate truffles. I don't know if that counts as cooking, but I guess you heat up stuff and melt it and stuff.
It's food. That's one of my food groups.
Yeah. Number 1. Oh.
Your most favorite thing of all. So if you could only ever cook one thing again, that would be your number 1, right?
Potatoes.
Just plain potatoes?
Well, that's the good thing about potatoes. You could fry them. You can.
But that's not.
deep-fry
What
them.
is your favorite potato dish then? It can't be like steamed potatoes. That's like super boring.
I love them, but it's probably French fries. But I wouldn't cook French fries because
So that doesn't answer the
that
question.
doesn't. No, I'm trying to think. This is really hard. Those Buddha bowls where it's like rice and lettuce and carrots and
That's
tofu.
your favorite thing to make?
It's versatile. I don't know. I've never thought about that question.
Well, you need to think about it. Pressure is on.
I know.
What about Biscoff cake? Is that your favorite thing to make?
Well,
It's my favorite thing to consume.
I mean, it's really fun to make, but I can't have much of it because I worry I get sick of it.
But it's not about you.
Okay,
It's about what is your favorite thing to cook for other people?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Biscoff cake would be up there in the top 4 for sure. I think the noodles as well. The hand-pulled noodles that I make.
Yeah.
They're really good. Bang Bang noodles. They are really fun to make.
Henry's not on here, or he could help.
Yeah.
He helps Eva make them.
Yeah, so definitely Bang Bang noodles, Biscoff cake, sourdough bread, and chocolate truffles, if it's for other people.
Okay.
If it's
Great.
for myself, it's just potatoes, 1 to 4.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for attending. Any last words? Any last words of encouragement, or?
Can I hold some books in the camera that I think are great?
No, we've been through the books question already.
Can someone ask a books question?
Okay. Maybe you can hold up one more book.
Oh, yes. This one. You're Not Listening by Kate Murphy.
What is it called?
You're Not Listening.
What?
Get it? Yeah, you should read it. This one, okay, let me read out the back. It's very short. At work, we're taught to lead the conversation. On social media, we shape our personal narratives.
Slow down.
At parties, we talk over one another. So do our politicians. We're not listening, and no one is listening to us. This book will transform your conversations, your relationships, and your life. And I read this book when I flew from London to San Francisco in January, and I learned some tricks through it, some tips, and I tested it on the taxi driver, and it worked so perfectly. And I learned so much about him by just asking him questions and then shutting up. So I recommend this for anyone who wants to become a better listener. Yeah.
Okay.
Did people enjoy this? That's what I want to know. If people enjoyed this.
Yeah. So Eva and I, she's interviewed me, I've interviewed her, and we were talking about that, and we're like, well, should we maybe do this like once a month and have a guest? Would that be of interest to anybody? We could just, there's some people I have in mind. Don't have to be even related to Tableau or the database community. We can just maybe find some interesting people to ask questions to. So I'm wondering if you all would like that. And while they're answering that question, any final parting words from you?
Well, I just thought that I'll just do a video about books that I found transformational, and then I can cover all the
getting
books.
around the question.
Yes.
Right.
I'll do it on my channel, so I'm in full control. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, would people be interested in some videos from the US, like some hiking ones?
Oh yeah, we could
do that.
We're gonna have. There's probably gonna start being some puppy videos.
Oh
so
yeah.
There have to be puppy videos on the YouTube channel now, and maybe we'll do some like compilations of hikes we do, and we did a really fun one this past weekend. Crazy muddy.
It was really
27
kilometers.
Almost 28 kilometers, which
It's
is
like
about 16 miles. Yeah, we're
17,
quite tired, and then the jacuzzi wasn't warm, so that was quite disappointing. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. It looks like you did based on the commentary. And thank you for the feedback. Appreciate the chat along the way. It keeps it very interesting for me.
Yeah.
And it's good to see people engaged. And it looks like people would like to do another one.
Yeah.
So we will at some point. And just keep an eye on the channel. You can, I'm sure we'll tweet about it, but you can also just subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll get notifications of anything that we schedule. And I guess that's it. So thank you, Eva.
Thank you for inviting me.
Everybody